Okay, I'm going to show you how to use a light microscope. I've got two examples of light microscopes here. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes, but the basic functions are all the same. The first thing is to make sure when you carry it carefully. You want to put one hand underneath the base and you want to have one hand at the top to support it. Obviously you don't want to drop that. If we take the covers off the light microscopes, the first thing you'll see is that there's a power cord. Check the power cord first of all to make sure that the cord's intact and there's no broken wires or anything exposed. Then you can put that into a power socket. The eyepiece, these eyepieces here are connected to the turret of the microscope, and you can turn that around to use it with the stage facing towards you or on the other side, depending on your preference. Before you start, we'll just go through some of the main parts of the microscope. At the top here are the eyepieces, and the eyepieces is what you look down with your eyes. Most light microscopes are binocular, so there's two eyepieces, and they're designed for both your eyes to look down. It's a little bit of a trick to get used to looking down the microscope with both eyes, but that's definitely the way you should be looking down there, rather than closing one eye and looking down one or the other. The eyepieces do come out for cleaning, and so you can have a look at them. You can clean the glass lens there. You can use Windex on most light microscopes or other special cleaning products. Do you want to get a lint-free tissue somewhere there, Eddie, and some Windex? A lint-free tissue. Normal tissue has little bits of lint, and that gets in the way and sticks to the lenses, so always use lint-free tissue. You can use the lint-free tissue to clean the eyepieces, or you can use some Windex or a product like that to clean the lenses. The eyepieces magnify by 10 times, and they're usually marked with a 10 times. So each eyepiece is 10 times. When you set up the microscope, the first thing you can do is turn on the power, and usually each microscope has got a power source attached to it. So there's the on-off switch in this microscope. So we turn that on and see if we can see the light. So the first thing you can identify here is the light at the bottom. I'm going to just move that stage up. So the light at the bottom comes from this light source. So there's a bulb at the bottom and it comes through this cover glass. The light goes up through this device at the bottom of the microscope. And I'll show you on this one here. I'll take this off and I'll show you what we've got. So this is not the light source. This is called the condenser. And it's a piece of glass which focuses the light and brings it straight up onto the bottom of the slide in a very even light, so it makes looking down the microscope easier. Also on this device, so that piece of glass there is called the condenser, but there's this little lever here which controls the iris diaphragm. So that diaphragm opens and closes. And we open and close the iris diaphragm at different times when we're looking at different specimens. Usually we have the iris diaphragm completely open like that, and we usually have the condenser all the way up, nearly touching the slide, just a little bit down. If you set your microscope up in that position, usually you'll be able to see what you need to. So I'll just put that one back in place, and I'll go back to this one here. So here's the iris diaphragm, which we open and close. This is all the way open. The condenser here, the light source at the bottom, the condenser, we push it all the way to the top and a little bit down. Then you see that this is the stage, and you move the stage up and down with the focus. Now the focus control knob is on each side. One's on this side and one's on this side. There's a coarse focus which moves the stage by quite a lot, and then there's a fine focus which only moves it by very small increments. And as you go higher and higher magnifications, you've got to be much more gentle about how far you move the stage to get things in focus. So that's the focus, the coarse focus, the fine focus, not to be confused with that control there which moves your condenser up and down. Once you move your condenser up and a little bit down, you don't touch it again for the rest of the session that you're using the microscope. There's also a little bracket here which holds the slide in place, so that holds the slide so it doesn't move around. We talked about the eyepieces, and then the other important part of the microscope here is called the objectives. The objectives, we have 4 different types usually. There's a 4 times, there's a 10 times, there's a 40 times, and a 100 times. The 100 times is special because we use oil when we're using that, and that's the only objective which is designed to be used with oil. None of the other ones are designed to be used with oil, and if you do get oil on those other objectives, you should clean it off straight away. When you start using the microscope, you get getting a slide, and we put the slide onto the stage like so. It's always a good idea to get a permanent marker and put your initials on the slide so you know which side is up and which side is down. If you put the wrong side down, it's going to be very difficult to see what you need to. So I put the slide on here onto the stage, and I put the bracket to hold it in place. Now we move the stage adjuster, which is on this side. The stage adjuster here moves the slide around on the stage, up and down and left to right. So we use the stage adjuster there to move the part of the slide over the light source, so we know that's the bit that we're looking at. Now when you begin, you always start with the lowest power objective, and you always store the microscope with the lowest power objective. So this is the 4 times here. If we're looking down the eyepieces, which are 10 times magnification and 4 times objective, that's 40 times what we would see with our eyes with normal vision. 10 times, 40 times and 100 times. The 100 times objective multiplied by the 10 eyepiece, that's 1,000 times what we would normally see, which is pretty amazing for a device like this. Okay, after you've set the interocular distance, the next thing you can control is what's called the dioptric adjustment. And all of us have got eyes which are slightly different in their focal length, so the left and the right eye. Some people are quite different, some people have got them very, very similar. But most microscopes allow you to adjust and customise it for each of your left or your right eye. Some have got the adjustment on both eyepieces, and some of them have only got it on one. How you set this for yourself is to look down the eyepiece without the dioptric adjustment, and you close your other eye. Look down and get something on the slide in focus. So you use the coarse focus first of all, and then you use the fine focus to get it perfectly in focus. Once that's spot on, close that eye and look down the eyepiece with the dioptric adjustment, and you use the dioptric adjustment now, not the focus, to customise that to that eye. Now when you look with both eyes should be in focus, and you should get a very clear single image of what you're looking at. So that's the interocular distance and the dioptric adjustment. Once you've got that set up with the condenser up and your iris diaphragm open, you're right to go. You start with the lowest power first. So the lowest power objective is the 4 times objective, and we're using that to look at an image. The way to use the microscope is to have one hand on the fine and the coarse focus and one hand on the stage adjuster on the other side. That way you can move around scanning the slide and continually adjusting the focus as it comes in and out of focus to make sure that you can see. So it's designed to be used with 2 hands like that, looking down the microscope. As you scan around, you use the fine focus to bring the image that you're interested in into focus. Once that's in focus, you try to move that into the very middle of the round circle that you see, because as we go up the powers, the magnification is going to zoom in. And if you've got that outside or the periphery of your original circle, as you zoom in, sometimes you won't be able to see it. It'll be outside your field of vision. So make sure what you're looking at is right in the middle of your field. So the 4 times is in focus there. Now I'm going to move up to the next power. The next power is the 10 times. So I roll this around to there. It looks like that might hit the slide and smash it, but the microscope is designed so if you have the lower power in focus, that the next power up will be at the right place. And in fact, if I look now, I can see that the image, it's not in focus, but it's pretty close. So I just roll forward a little bit to try to get it in focus. Sometimes if you can't find it, you remember what your original starting point is, you roll forward a little bit and then you come back to the beginning. you roll back a little bit, and then you come back to the beginning. You roll forward a little bit further than before, and then come back to the beginning. And then you roll back the other way a little bit further, and then back to the beginning. That way, you'll be able to find where the image is and try to get that in focus. The 10 times is in focus now. I'm going to have a look around here at 10 times. Things look a little bit more magnified than they did at the 4 times, using the 4 times objective. Okay, there's something interesting. I've put that right in the middle of my image, and now I move on to the 40 times. So the 40 times comes into under the light now. And I know that's okay to roll that in place because the 10 times was in focus. If you don't have the lower power objective in focus, don't move on to the next higher power because you run the risk of smashing the slide. So you have to have the lower power focus the lower power objective in focus before we move on to the next power. At 40 times, we're looking at something 40 times 10 times. That's 400 times what we would see with our normal eyes. And that's quite a magnification. The next step up from there is the 100 times, the oil. I'll show you how to use that. Once the 40 times objective is in focus, you need to make sure that's very clear. And at this stage, the 40 times and the 100 times, you're only just moving the fine focus a little bit back and forward. So you need to be very careful at this point. Once that's in focus, you move so the 40 times and the 100 times objective, neither of them are in place, but they're sort of in between. You grab the oil and you just place this, 1 drop of oil, onto your slide right above the light. Now once you've done that, you gently roll the oil objective, the 100 times objective, into place. If the 40 times objective was in focus, then you won't smash the slide. That is designed to be very close to where you need to be. You need to have a look down the microscope now and very gently grab the fine focus and just roll it forward or backwards, remembering where you started from because you know it's always going to be close from your starting point. And just roll it until you get your image in focus. Okay, so that's coming into focus. Great, right there. Now at 100 times, I can move around the microscope, the slide now, scanning things and continually just adjusting the fine focus for what I'm looking at. At that magnification, things quickly go out of focus just with a little bit of bumping or moving around the slide. So you continually have to adjust with the fine focus. After you've viewed what you need to, the first, to pack up the microscope, what you do is to roll the stage away and then you put the lowest power objective in place. So this is the 4 times we're going to put that in place. You grab some lint-free tissue and some Windex and you clean the oil off the oil objective, off the 100 times objective. If you've got any oil on any of the other objectives or on the stage or somewhere it shouldn't be, you should clean that as well. You shouldn't leave oil on the microscope. You can take the slide and dispose of that into the sharps. At this point, you want to make sure the lowest power objective is in place. You want to roll the stage down away from the objectives to ensure that that's a safe distance. You turn off your light source at the back, you turn off your power. You can move the turret back around into the storage position if you use a microscope such as this. You wrap the power cord around the microscope, like so, and you get the cover and you cover the microscope. Make sure you carry the microscope from the arm, which is at the back here, there, and one hand underneath the microscope and carry it safely to be stored.